And we are about to start. John and Micah, welcome to our webinar and everybody here. Chapter 4, Market Your Mental Health Practice, High Impact Strategies to Stand Out in a Crowd. Let me just get our program working.
So you're going to change the screen right now?
All right. Hello, everybody. This is John Kelly, and I have with me Micah Adler, and we're just having a little handoff there.
Hello, my name is Micah Adler.
And we're now going to be talking to you about how to market your practice. So, go to the next screen here. So just a little bit about ourselves.
So I, Micah Adler, have been working for the past 12 years at the Evidence-Based Treatment Centers of Seattle, which is a multidisciplinary practice in Seattle, Washington that has many different disciplines that it has day-to-day in terms of dialectical behavior therapy, anxiety and stress reduction, eating and weight disorder clinic, and a child and adolescent treatment program. And I also, that dovetails with a practice consultation that I'm doing with Valent Medical Solutions. And before that, I got my MBA from the University of Washington, did my undergraduate from the University of Washington School of Psychology.
And so how many clinicians are over there at EBT right now?
Right now we have about 28 part-time or full-time psychologists and a couple psychiatrists.
And roughly how many clients are you guys seeing on a monthly basis?
Our full-time providers tend to see about 24 to 28 clients per week, and our part-timers see about 12 to 14, and our psychiatrists usually have a caseload of about 150 to 200 clients at a time.
So that's a lot of clients coming in. So
it's a lot of volume.
And you guys have been doing that for many years now, and keeping that up.
Since 2002.
Yeah. So my name is John Kelly, and I'm Vice President of Marketing here at Valent Medical Solutions, and I've been a marketing executive for the last 20 years. And one of the lucky things that I get to do is go out and talk to clinicians at trade shows and events, and invariably we have conversations about how to market their practices, and so I draw on a wealth of conversations about how to build practices out there in the community from a marketing perspective. So what we're hoping to do in this webinar is really talk about the fundamentals of marketing to you and establish a process for which you can organize your approach to developing a marketing program for your practice, and also to focus in on some high impact promotional strategies that are going to pay off for you with just a small bit of investment and a high return. We want you guys to understand the promotional approaches that are available to you, and finally we really want you to have a realistic understanding of what you can expect marketing to provide for you and your practice as you grow it. So first off, we just want to start off by opening your minds to a thought here. If you had just $1,000 that you were going to invest towards marketing, what would you do with it? Would you buy office furnishings? Would you create a website? Would you get some business cards, print brochures, or would you invest in local advertising? And it's an interesting question out there because people tend to think in terms of investing in, we're just going to pause for a second here. There we go. I'm sorry we weren't showing our screen there. But people tend to focus in on things that they see out there in the community or things that are easy for them to do. And so a lot of people immediately gravitate towards print advertising. But in fact, what would be much more interesting would be to invest in your office furnishings. And I'm going to explain that to you here right now. With just giving you a high-level overview of, what is the realm of marketing. And we think about marketing, we really think about it as 5 different things that are going out there. So first, it is how you describe your practice to people when you're talking to them. Second, it's how you're presenting your practice to your clients. And it's not just yourself, but how the practice appears to your clients. And hence the investment in office furnishings is always a good start. How you compare your practice to other practices, or how you differentiate your practice out there in the community. And one aspect that is often overlooked is how do you let people know about your practice? And then finally, how do people contact you when they're ready to reach out for your services? And the fact of the matter is that all of these things are equally important, and they all deserve an equal level of attention from you when you're building your practice and working on promoting out there in the community. So we've set up here with 3 simple steps to really get you going, and it really is a methodology that allows you to work from the very basic aspect of developing your brand and your identity and how you present yourself, and ultimately on to paying for advertising out in the community. And so the first thing you really have to do, and we're going to go into detail on each one of these 3 steps here as we go forward, is you have to define your practice profile. And this is a critical step because it's really identifying what services you're providing, how you're different out there in the marketplace, and also understanding what you don't do. And then the next step is defining your contact paths, and this is incredibly important. If you don't have easy ways for clients to find your practice, then they're not going to find you. And so you have to establish secure, safe feeling, and reliable ways for new clients to communicate with you and find out information about you. And then finally, taking your step into advertising and promoting your practice. And we're excited about sharing some ideas there as well, because there are many solutions out there that don't actually cost any money to promote. So the first step we want to talk about is really defining your practice profile. And basically, clients need to understand the services that you provide before they can start to evaluate whether or not you would be a good provider to help them with their needs. And so the better they understand what you're doing, the smoother the whole process is going to go. And so there's some very basic pieces of information that not only a client needs to understand your services, but any consumer of any product needs to understand before they purchase something. And the very first one is, what are the services that you're providing? And we talked to a lot of people. Mike was just saying that EBTCS provides many different services, and they have many different clinicians that specialize in different aspects of the practice. And so you need to define for yourself exactly what services you are able to provide and what you're not.
Yeah, and I think this brings up a good point, and I think John has done a great job laying this out, because I think as providers and clinicians and administrators of practices, all these different components that are listed here kind of dovetail with each other. For example, services you provide dovetails a lot with the profile of your clinicians and the philosophy of your practice, and these help formulate a lot of kind of the operating principles that your practice works under. And for you to really declare what that particular mission statement is or those operating principles are in a clear way, so you can make sure that all potential clients or collaborating providers or referring providers are aware of what your core operating components are, what your mission statement is, and what your particular value is to the community.
So we recommend a very simple exercise, and it can be quite fun to do, but what we suggest is you take a sheet of paper and you write down the answers to the 6 questions that we have here, and they don't have to be long answers, but what you want to do is you then want to be able to give that sheet of paper to someone else, have them read through that sheet of paper, and then describe back to you what your practice does. And hopefully what they describe to you actually matches with your vision. But you know, there's 2 ways of thinking about this step, and again, it's very important because it really sets up the boundaries for your practice. And if you have this clearly defined, then later on when you start to actually do advertising and you're trying to figure out what to write into your ad copy, what to put on websites, then it's this step that makes everything else easier. So once you've completed step 1, the next thing that you really need to do is you really need to define your contact paths. And the truth is, the easier it is for an individual to contact you and to evaluate who you are and your services are, the quicker and more likely they are to make a decision to seek services from you. And so we know that we're talking to individuals out there today that are both solo providers that are doing everything themselves, and then we have individuals that are in large practices that have staff resources to help them. And so we want to try to give a boundary for everybody here. But you know, the first step is, of course, your practice telephone. And this is something that we see when we're out talking to practices at trade shows, is that smaller providers might be operating with just a single phone number, but you really want to have a unique, dedicated practice telephone number that you can have inbound calls that is separate from the phone number that you give out to your clients for critical communication with them. And so you might have a separation there.
And I think also the telephone, and this is a huge marketing component that is sometimes thought about, but the lifeline of your practice is your telephone for intakes. And we know that intakes help define a practice in terms of making sure that there's a solid revenue stream coming in, and the entry point is that initial telephone call. And so we really stress when providing consultation to different practices, small or large, throughout the country, that if you don't have administrative support in terms of somebody answering the call, that you really make an effort to call as quickly back to the intakes as possible, because you know that they have usually a list of different providers that they've been recommended or referred by another collaborating provider in the community, and you want to make sure that you call them back as quickly as possible. And then similarly, if you have admin staff, that it's the #1 priority of your admin staff to make sure that they are picking up the phone at all times for intakes and prioritizing those calls, even if they have to put somebody on hold and pick up the phone, that they make sure that stream of referrals are coming in.
And Micah was just talking about communicating who you are out there in the community, and that leads us to our business card. And it always surprises me when I meet a clinician that has a practice out there and they're operating and they don't have a business card. But you definitely want a business card, and you want it not only for when you first make that introduction with a client, but when you're out there doing community networking, it's very important. And a little tip there is that for not very much money, you could go to a rapid printer and get a business card for $150 that has front and back printing. And you want to have your business information on the front, but on the back of that card, you want to put the services that you provide. And people are going to hold on to that, and they're going to be able to reference that and come back to you.
And John, let me ask you a question about that. In a day and age where paper, and we're going paperless throughout the country, why is it so important to still have business cards, and how are people using business cards for their marketing efforts, and why is it important still to do that?
So the business card is still the primary authentication of a business practice for an individual. And so when you hand over a business card, you're basically saying, I am a business professional. And that's one big subliminal message that gets pushed out there. But the second thing is that business cards are really a personalized note. And so you see people writing notes on the backs of business cards and filing them away and referring to them later on. And it's your personalized stationery of today. There's one other thing that's going on is that you really have to think about the demographic of the clients that you're serving, and there is a big differentiation in generations out there. And so if you're serving an older generation that didn't come of age during the era of the internet and smart telephones, then they're going to feel more comfortable when they have that tactile business card that they're holding in their hand. Which leads us to the next big innovation in marketing is the website, and it's incredibly important. So we know from our friends at therapysites.com that over 1.5 million individuals are seeking mental health services every month on the internet. It's become the primary way that individuals are out there evaluating practices and building their first impression before they ever even talk to you about your practice. So having a website is incredibly important. Having basic contact information on there about who you are, where you're located, what your hours of service are, and a phone number is incredibly important. And one other thing is having the ability to have an email form on your website is important. And when I say email form, I'm differentiating that from just having an email address. You don't really want your email address on your website out there for easy, what's called web scraping, or for individuals to collect your information and pair it up with an email address. You'd rather they fill out a form and have the form submit to you. And anyone that's helping you with a website will know exactly what you're looking for and be able to make that possible for you. Another important tool out there is the LinkedIn profile. And I know there's a lot of controversy around how much of your social network should be out there on the web, but in the case of LinkedIn, it's really a business directory, and it's the de facto B2B professional business directory that's being used on the internet today.
And John, when you say B2B, what does that mean?
So business to business, and it's where you're going to make your professional connections. If you're not on LinkedIn already, then you should definitely build a profile and go and look into it. You'll find many associations, many groups that are set up to discuss topics that are relevant to your practice and the specific types of treatments that you're providing.
So are you saying that there's behavioral health care focused in specific groups and committees that you can kind of join through LinkedIn?
That's right, and you can talk to your peers, and you can join conversations, and you can use that to network when you're going to events and you're reaching out into community. A tremendously helpful resource, and interestingly represents a business directory that individuals can look at and get an idea about your practice. And what's so wonderful about LinkedIn is that you can control exactly how you present your information about yourself and where your background is, and keep it all on a professional level. Which brings me to my last point here on this page, which is Facebook. So there is a way to set up a business Facebook page for your practice and control the information on that page so that it doesn't become a social interaction or a way that individuals are reaching out to you or understanding who you are personally. And if you feel socially savvy, then it's a nice addition to add to your presentation mix.
And what are some of the repercussions of having Facebook, just because of people talking about being on Facebook and your reputation getting out there in a certain way that may not be ideal? What are some of the things that we should look out for and be concerned about by posting information on Facebook about our business?
Sure. So your big concern is any kind of negative conversation. Actually, there's two. One is any kind of negative conversation going on about you that you inadvertently find yourself hosting on a Facebook page that you set up. And so one of the great things about Facebook is you can moderate what's being posted up there, or even whether or not an individual is posting at all, and or not an individual. Individuals are enabled to do that, and so that is something that you don't want to just set up and ignore. You have to pay attention to once you've set it up.
So understanding what the permission levels are within Facebook to make sure that you control what messages are being created, is that what you mean?
That, and also monitoring, if you are allowing individuals to talk on your page, monitoring what is being talked about.
Okay.
And of course, the second is you really don't want your personal identity easily accessible on Facebook. So if you have your own personal Facebook page that you use to communicate with your friends and family, you don't want your clients looking at that page. You don't want to be friending that page. And so we always recommend that you look into the personal privacy settings, make sure that for your own personal website, Facebook site, that you've locked it down, and it's only being viewed by people that you have approved to view it.
Let me ask you one more question about all these different profiles. Does that increase the probability that when somebody searches your name or some other aspect of your specific practice or services that you provide within your clinic or within your private practice, that it increases the probability that it would be picked up on a Google search?
It increases the places that will appear for sure, but there's a contributory factor to individuals feeling like they have a depth of awareness of you. And so when you do a search on a provider and you see them come up on a LinkedIn profile, on a Facebook profile, on their own website page, and maybe you see them as a guest speaker or something like that at a conference, then you start to build a perception that they're much bigger than just the one individual. You treat it as 4 different contact points, 4 different entities, and so it will help you be found more, but it'll also make the clients feel more trusting of you and have a better understanding of the practices that you're providing. And again, content here based on that profile that you built up. If you don't have a website provider, we have good friends over at therapysites.com. They have about 8,000 therapist sites that they've set up for very affordably, and they can definitely get you going out there quickly. So, this gets us to step 3, which is really getting into the game of advertising and promoting your practice. And it's an exciting step. We categorize practice promotion in 3 ways. So first, there's your referral network. And when we talk about your referral network, we're really talking about all the people that are referring clients to you. And this is really the lifeblood of your practice. When you have a big referral network, like the practice that Micah oversees, then it's healthy for forever, right? And so that's your long-term strategy, and your real goal is to have a huge referral network. The second is directory marketing, and directory marketing is really what has replaced the old yellow pages. And so there are hosts of directories, and we're going to talk about this in just a little bit here, out there where you can get listings of your practice and your profile on, and it's a ready way to get clients. And then finally, there's the old nuts and bolts paid advertising, where you're actually paying to have your message put out there into the local community. And so we want to first talk about referral networks, and I want to ask Micah here, what's your experience with referral networks?
Well, it's been interesting to acknowledge that in terms of one of the first questions John pointed out in the beginning is, if you had $1,000, how would you spend that $1,000, and what would be the way that you would best use your $1,000 that you've allocated for marketing within your practice? And when we talk to clinicians throughout the country, it's clear that each one of them usually mentions something that they're most comfortable with. So whatever that marketing strategy is, or their marketing approach and how they spend that $1,000 is usually aligned with something that doesn't create discomfort or challenges them too much but comes naturally to them. So for some people, that's creating print marketing and sending it out. For others, it may be going to give presentations and meeting people for coffee and introducing themselves over lunch, whatever it may be. The challenge that we ask of clinicians when talking with them is, think about doing something that is outside of your comfort zone, that may actually yield a greater number of referrals and build your referral network at a greater rate than something that you are innately comfortable doing on a regular basis. So the key takeaway is that colleague network and cross-referring is typically the most significant marketing approach that any collaborating providers can have. And so when we mention that, it's mostly making sure that you're taking the steps to get introduced between providers, taking people out and introducing them at coffee breaks, at luncheons, at doing as many free presentations as you possibly can do as you're building your practice, as you're building your reputation, introducing yourself to different hospitals and inpatient facilities who may be discharging clients from their inpatient unit and wanting really solid outpatient treatment providers to be a part of their referral network. And when at the end of the day, business is personal, and people want to work with people that they enjoy and that they trust and that they know that they have confidence in their ability to provide excellent psychiatric and psychological services to, and really improving the continuity of care or maintaining the continuity of care between one provider to the next. And the one thing that will stick out for most people is if they have that personal relationship with the referring provider. So taking the time to introduce yourself, making yourself aware of who those referring providers are in your community, getting a layout, doing a Google search, looking in the yellow pages, in the white pages, whatever it may be within your, looking at LinkedIn, doing a search for different providers in your zip code or in your city, and taking the time to introduce yourself will pay significant dividends. And then there's the components outside of that in terms of making sure that you're reaching out to insurance companies, successfully negotiating reimbursement rates based upon the excellent services that you're providing, hopefully having the quality assurance or outcome measures data to back up why your services are as exceptional as they are. The inherent referral network that is built just by the university that you attended, or college, or whichever school you may have gone to, and the number of providers that have graduated from that program and that are now a part of your referring network that you've collaborated with while you're during your studies, but now in the professional capacity, also have a lot of powerful impacts on helping you develop your reputation in the community.
And it just brings to mind, about 5 years ago I met Dr. Ruth Westheimer on an airplane flight, and one thing that struck me about her is as we were walking up to the tarmac and then across the entire flight and then coming out, she was reaching out and communicating with everyone that she could, and she had these little pens with her name on it, and she was passing them out to everyone. She was just working and networking and promoting nonstop, and that's really what building referral networks are about. And I know it's very uncomfortable sometimes to always be self-promoting out there, but if you keep in the back of your mind that the real health and growth of your practice is based on how well you build your referral networks and how strong your community ties are, then it will help you go right along there.
And we all, one of the last things you want to do is when you get on an airplane, acknowledge to the person next to you that you are a psychologist and be stuck next to them for 5 hours to the point where they end up sharing their entire life story for free and providing services to them. But it brings up a great point that every interaction with anybody is a potential referral source or a potential client. And so when you're comfortable to disclose that information that you are a behavioral health care provider, that really resonates with people, especially if they had a wonderful human interaction with you in any capacity of life.
So the next category of promotion that we like to think about is list promotion. And list promotion, there's really two categories. There's free list promotion, and then there's paid list promotion. And so your free lists are, the insurance companies that you're part of a network for. They have a profile of you. Yelp will often have a profile built up of you, and that's an important one for you to pay attention to because that is user opinion driven, and so you want to pay attention to your Yelp reviews and see if individuals are saying something that you disagree with. You can contact Yelp and you can dispute things that go up there, and they'll work with you. Also, you can ask your clients that you have good relationships with that are having success with you to add reviews there. And then, of course, associations are a tremendously good resource for getting provider lists. So you, I'm sure, have gone to the internet and you've done a search for find a psychiatrist or therapist in your area, and you've seen all the many listings that come back up here, and these are the directories that you want to make sure that they're updated and they're accurate. And it's incredibly important that you review those profiles, because if someone else builds the profile, then the opportunity for inaccuracy is magnified tremendously. And then there's paid lists, and there's some good paid lists out there like Psychology Today. There's psychiatry and therapist listings, $30 a month out there, and there's quite a lot of business coming that way, and it also helps cement that multi-response experience that people have when they go to the internet today. Good Therapy is another good site. One controversial site out there is healthygrades.com. They also have user-submitted reviews, and you get in there and you can pay to be listed there, but you also can find yourself with negative reviews, and so you have to work to fight those out. But paid list promotion is a great source, and again, just think of it as the old Yellow Pages. And then finally we get to what is the most exciting topic for me, which is paid advertising. And I have a lot to say on this topic, but the main message I'd want to leave you with is keep it local, keep it simple, don't overspend your budget, and keep it measurable. And what we mean by keeping it measurable is if you decide that you're going to spend $500 to have an advertisement run in a weekly newspaper for a month, say, you want to have a way of knowing if the leads are coming from that publication. And so to do that, you might have something like mention this ad and get free consultation, or you might want to have something like call a specific phone number, or just ask for a specific name, right? And any way that would note to you that the individual came from one of these different sources. And then, of course, you want to train your staff and train yourself to always ask the question, well, how did you hear about me, and where did you hear from? Because some publications in your area are going to work better than others, but the local weekly newspapers that have the listings of what's going on in towns, those are readily read out there. Also, your community may have a local magazine, and back pages are fantastic sources of building awareness in the community and getting clients. The second is keeping your eye open for local events and sponsorship opportunities. So if you get involved in your local associations, you'll find that they're running events out there, and you can sponsor your name out for coffees, things like that. And then finally, doing volunteer work out in the community is very important as well. But those are your traditional approaches to marketing and paid advertising. The second, which is newer and also very effective, is online promotion. And the 500-pound gorilla out there is the Google keyword advertising. And what's wonderful about Google keywords is that you can set up an account, and for $50 a month or $100 a month, you can get your name listed out there, and you can set it so that it's just showing advertisements in your local city or your state, or whatever your region is that you want to promote in. And you put your information up there, your little ad up there, and you link it back to your website, and it's tremendously effective and it's very controllable for you, and you can walk through their online wizard, or you can call them up, and they're extremely helpful, and they'll get your ad out there. And that can be a great source, especially if you're servicing a younger demographic that's spending a lot of time on the internet already. Bing AdWords is another solution that's Microsoft's online advertising. The thing to keep in mind is that Google has about 80% of the market share, and Bing and some of the others fight out the other 20%. So if I was spending $50 on advertising on an online source, I'd choose Google because it's going to have greater reach out there.
Yeah, and I think in talking with the providers that work with Valent, it's been clear that they can actually play with the Google keywords initially. And when John says local, simple, and affordable and measurable, Google really will allow you to accomplish all of those very quickly and easily. So you can say, okay, I want to try what it would look like to put $100 towards Google keywords for my practice. And then you will have what is called Google Analytics that will provide you with information about how many people clicked on your name, what web page they went to after they clicked on your name, did they reach it, and then from there you can make conclusions about whether they actually reached out to you or not, and what that is yielding. So if you get a certain number of clicks and that has led to a certain number of phone calls, then you can make the informed decision at that point to decide to, oh, maybe I'll, if I need to ramp up my intakes during this month because I had a couple of people graduate, maybe it's the summertime and you have your child and adolescent provider and people are away for the summertime, then you can put $200 in during those down months, and then really be able to successfully measure it to make calculated decisions about how to spend your marketing budget regarding Google keywords.
And one tip we want to give about Google keywords and Bing keywords is don't focus on what's called mobile advertising or sending ads to people's cell phones or iPads, things like that. It isn't particularly effective for the kind of practice promotion that you'll be looking for out there. So we want to talk a little bit about, beyond just the basic mediums out there, and we didn't want to get too complex, but we want to make sure that you understand that all those paid advertising solutions are relatively easy and open to you, and they just take a couple hours to set up, and they're completely controllable from a budget perspective and a results perspective, and you're going to know pretty quickly whether they're working for you and whether you want to continue on using them. But beyond the basics really is about content marketing and building your reputation as a provider out there in the community. And you know, Micah can talk a lot about the providers at EBTCS, but you know, they've built reputations that extend far beyond the local community. They're nationally and internationally well known. And you know, why don't you talk about how they do that, because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can build your reputation, and I think that John has this listed in terms of write and self-publish a book or write articles for publication. This is a huge medium to really help people understand who you are, the importance of your practice's core philosophy in terms of what is important to you within the discipline that you're working in, and how your research or perception around that is relevant or salient to the point where other people can read about it. And I think that having outcome measures within your practice really helps accomplish a lot of it, because it is standardized data that you can publish on if you are receiving it and you are receiving it in a standardized, approved way. And if you have an IRB or some other standardized tool that will be recognized at a national or international level, it gives you a wonderful vehicle to communicate about the work that you're doing at your practice. And I think the other piece is that as a result of the work that you're doing, you also have the opportunity to volunteer at a lot of different conferences to make sure that you are communicating about the work that you're doing and have ideas about how to enhance the work that you're doing that may benefit other providers throughout the country. And that'll be published both on the conference's web pages, on the documentation that is given to each provider when they show up to the conference, and then that will also have a big impact on, you know, your Google Analytics in terms of being able to be found in a Google search.
But it will be amazing to you if you start to do this, how quickly your referral network will grow, how quickly you will build deep roots out into the community, and how it will affect client perceptions of you. So I put down here, you know, write and self-publish a book. You can write a book and you can self-publish it for about $750 these days with on-demand printing. And even if all you do is have a case of books on a topic of your practice and you give them to your clients, even if that's all you do, their perception of your skill and your background is magnified incredibly. And so it's a very good technique. It's being used by business professionals in all industries out there. And if you ever had any thoughts or desires about doing research, you can still be a practicing clinician out there and still get to publish thoughts, and it's really fantastic. Using social media, we talked about that earlier on, about the do's and don'ts around your personal profile, but it's really demonstrates thought leadership when you participate in blog conversations. And so reaching out into LinkedIn and starting to get familiar with the conversations that are happening online, and then finding other streams of clinician-focused conversations around your specialty and starting to talk in those circles will not only keep a permanent record of that conversation that's searchable out there in the internet, but it will also contribute to building your profile and awareness.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen this show up also through listservs, where people can join through different agencies, through different national databases and local organizations that have listservs, to be a part of it, to echo your voice and make people aware of what your position is on different matters. If you have opportunities for people to join different meetings or different events that other folks can participate in, and for you to take potentially a leadership role in organizing events, is a wonderful vehicle for people to be aware that you are a provider, that you are engaged, that you're committed to the service that you're providing, and that your name is well known as a result.
And the only piece of cautionary advice we have is, again, remember that when you publish something on the internet, it lives forever. It's searchable forever. So you always have to have your business professional public hat on when you're writing anything out there. And so that leads us to our last point on Beyond the Basics. If you get out there into the internet world and you start to talk to consultants, you're going to hear a lot about search engine optimization, SEO, search engine marketing, SEM. And our advice to you is don't get overly worried about SEO and SEM at this point in developing your practice or your marketing. It will come just with good content and good information out there. If you're in a very large practice and you are building it out and you have resources for a consultant marketing person, then you can take a look at that, but it's a very complex topic, and it's easy for a consultant to come in and tell you you need this, and in actuality you don't. What you really need is a good, firm operating website, a good profile presence, and a lot of networking. So what should you expect from all this effort? You know, the reality is that a lot of advertising is about being in the right place at the right time, and I like to use the analogy of buying car tires. You know, every single day there are advertisements in the paper about discounts on buying tires, and you don't see them until the day you need tires, and then all of a sudden they're all there, right? And so what you really need to do is you need to find venues to promote in where your clientele is paying attention to. And so if you're a forensic psychologist and you're out there looking to do evaluations on ADHD or child backgrounds, then you want to be sure that you're promoting in a place where parents are going to be reading, right? And you need to focus on communicating what you do and because what you don't want is you don't want to spend a lot of money reaching individuals that you'll never service. You never ever stop networking. You always have to keep promoting. That's one of the downfalls of running your own business, is that you have to be both the salesperson and the provider at the same time. Always pay attention to your key profile information that's out there on the internet. It changes, or your practice changes. You broaden the services that you provide, and your profile needs to stay up to date with that. And it's really important not to overspend. And what we believe is that when you spend money on advertising, that gets you immediate business. You can expect to get the business within the time frame that the advertisement is running. When you spend effort on networking, you're going to get clients sometime in the future. And then when you spend time developing your lists and your profile and your marketing, then what you're going to do is you're going to strengthen once the client comes to you. So one thing we haven't talked so much about here, but you have to keep in mind, is it's not enough just to get the client to make that first intake call. They also have to feel comfortable enough with you that they want to actually become a client. And don't overestimate or underestimate the power of your existing client base and how they're out there working to refer people to you, and how it's important for you to make sure that they have a good understanding of what you do and the types of clients you serve, so that they're referring the right individuals to you. And so with that, we're going to pause, and we're going to open it up for question and answers.
Thanks.
And there we go.
Thank you both. We'll be quick with our questions and answers. Please know that you can You can send through questions in the next few hours. I know we may not be able to get to everything. Just first and foremost, John, do you mind going just a high level into what SEO is?
Sure. Search engine optimization. The way search engines work is that they index words, and so they evaluate the results of a web search. So when you type in looking for a therapist, a marriage family counseling therapist in Milwaukee, then they return the results of the pages that you see based on the words marriage, family, counseling, therapist, Milwaukee. And so if your website doesn't say that you're a marriage family counselor and you are, then your results aren't going to come back in that search. And so SEO is the activity of writing out the copy on your website so that it gets picked up in the search indexing that the search engines are using.
Fantastic. And now a very specific question. How much should I realistically expect to spend on keyword advertising?
So partly that's, so keyword advertising is a auction-based advertising medium, and the way it works is that you say that you'll spend anywhere from $2.50 to $10 per click. And so when someone does a search, they click on your ad, the ad takes them to your website, and then they see what you do, and that's why it becomes all important that they can easily communicate with you. But realistically, you can start with $50 a month, and for $50 a month you can test and get a sense of what is working, and then you can ratchet it up. And the way we do it is it isn't that it's like a budget that's unlimited. The way it works is that you spend as much as you're getting back in return. So if you're spending, say, $50 or $100 a month and you're getting no results, or everyone that clicks on your web you, then that tells you that it's not worthwhile. So on the other hand, if you're spending $100 a month and you're getting, clicks and you're getting calls, and the amount of business that you're generating is way in excess of the amount of money that you're spending on the Google advertising, then you're going to want to increase your spend, and you're going to just increase your spend as much as your practice can handle, right? And realistically, you could be spending in the neighborhood of $500 a month, but that would be a tremendous amount of business coming to you, right? So the great thing about Google AdWords and Bing is that when you've filled up your practice and you don't have room for more, you just dial down the spend. And so you dial it up or dial it down based on how much business you can take.
Thanks, John. And one more question, but please know I'll be sending a recording to all of you who are here live. And to those of you watching this recording, we had some issues with our slides just at the beginning, but know that I'll make available the PowerPoint presentation as well. So a final question for you both. I know you touched on monitoring negative conversation on social media, but what do you think the true implications of a bad review is?
It's hard. I think it's a really good question because I think it's something that we really need to be mindful of because one bad review could spiral out of control in terms of other folks in certain pockets that could be a part of a bigger network may all become privy to. And so it's hard to quantify exactly what the monetary impact would be, but it's something that really could mushroom in a bunch of different directions very quickly. And so regardless of who you're talking to, as long as you're mindful of making sure that the way that you're communicating is in line with who you are in a respectful manner, then I think it should be hopefully under control on some level.
There is one other thing I want to add, though, and that is that if you're handling a bad review, your impulse may be to argue with the review, but you don't want to do arguments publicly. So you want to do them privately directly with the individual, see if they'll retract the review. You can work through the website that's posted the review. But the fact of the matter is that you're going to get some bad reviews and you're going to get a lot of positive reviews. And a good way of judging it is, I'm sure that you've all gone to Amazon, you've all looked at the reviews on a product, you've seen that there's a whole bunch of positive reviews and a couple of negative reviews. Does it sway your attitude whether or not to buy the product? It only sways your attitude if there's a tremendous number of negative reviews. So just one or two, that's human nature. If you get a trend going, then you're going to want to address it.
Thank you both. What a fantastic and interactive webinar. Please stay tuned, everybody else, for Chapter 5 in the next month with Micah Adler. And I'll be sending through the archive of Chapters 1 to 4 of this Practice Success series, which has been a great success over the past few months. Finally, just Valent is the sponsor here of these webinars. They're complimentary and educational. We also run a continuing education program for psychologists, therapists, and psychiatrists. Please check our website, www.valent.com, to see those CE therapy-based presentations. Finally, Valent, some information about Valent. Valent is going to be a recognized EHR leader in the private practice behavioral health market, revolutionizing solo clinics and practices. Valent's 6.0 platform includes a secure EHR system, e-billing, patient portal, mobile notes, along with customizable charting, scheduling, and e-prescribing options tailor-made to fit those specific needs of those within this industry. And slowly and surely, we're moving into the public behavioral healthcare space, so watch this space. We are now finally 2014 ONC certified for meaningful use, so please contact us if you have any information there. Thank you all for joining us, and have a lovely rest of the week.